Well, good morning. This is how I generally like to start the day, milking a goat. And I'll just start off by apologising for the state of my goat. She likes to start her day with a nice dust bath as the sun cracks the horizon, so she looks pretty rough at the moment. I also want to say thank you for everyone that wrote in, sent a comment a couple of episodes ago. I was just talking about building a boat and I was just wondering, would you like to watch that? A lot of you responded in the affirmative, so the boat plans are on their way, and then we'll just get some materials and we'll get that started, and then we can go through the how to build a boat. So this week, what I wanted to talk about was just some of the things around the farm that we've made, mostly out of recycled materials that make our life easier, and in fact it makes some jobs possible, like this goat milking stand. So this goat milking stand, for instance, we got a whole bunch of recycled material from my sister. Her family's in the building industry and they were doing some demolition. She very kindly dropped off a bunch of pine. And Pascal told me that she really wanted a milking stand. So, we did a little bit of research by looking on the net at good designs, measured up Pascal, measured up the goats, and we put this together. It's been incredibly useful throughout its life, in fact daily use. And with this nice head bale that's designed in, it really keeps the goats sort of focused on their food. They can't pull their head back. Sometimes during milking they can get a little bit funny, particularly when they had kids and they want to make sure that you're leaving some milk for their offspring, which is totally reasonable. But they can try and muck around a bit, so that head bale has been very useful, as well as sometimes Pascal does a little bit of goat grooming, looks after their nails and things like that. So while it's possible to milk a goat and do all that maintenance if you just sort of chained it to a spot, this makes it much more comfortable for the goat, makes it much more comfortable for us. So I just wanted to go on and look at some of the other things that we've made around the farm. It's not necessarily a how-to, but maybe just by talking about some of the things that we really like and have made our life easier, it might give some of you out there some ideas if you're a bit of a DIY sort of person, and if you like recycling as much as we do. Well, here's one of our favourite little junk mods, and it's used fairly often. Whenever we want to make bacon or a nice leg of ham, this is what we use. This is our offset smoker. So this was entirely out of recycled materials as well. We've got a LPG tank out of a car, LPG, liquid petroleum gas, so a gas run car. That's why these little things that's sitting on the end, they sort of look decorative, but that's the ports and outlets that for the valves and things like that went to the car. I actually left them there. I just blanked them off with sheets of steel just because they sort of look cool. Why wouldn't you? This is just a household gas bottle. Here is a brake rotor from our car. When I first got it, I did all the brakes to make sure she was nice and safe, and I kept the brake rotors because I was sure that I could do something with them. It didn't take long till I figured out what that something was. The door to my offset smoker. The little catch that I've got off there that holds this nice and securely, I actually pulled that off a wheelchair. If you ever look at a wheelchair that's been thrown out at the local rubbish tip, you'll see that they've got lots of hinges and catches and things like that that are very handy for making stuff. So that's what that is. It's a nice bit of stainless steel there actually. The hinge is just a nut and the bolt going up through it. I really like making hinges out that way. They're cheap, but they're very easy to lubricate and keep going, and they don't really expand in such a way that they screw up when you heat this thing up. So most of the heat is concentrated here, not so much there, so that works out pretty well. The wooden handles, to prevent us getting burnt when we open up these things, that was just a shovel that had broken off the actual blade. So here's the shovel stirrup with the handle there for opening up and accessing the food, and like the handle as it went down to the blade itself, I just cut that off. You only need to just drill a hole. You don't even need to tap it. This was a bent bolt. It still had the thread on there, and as long as I got the hole fairly close, I was able to thread that handle on, and now it's on there very nice and firm. So we can shut that door, lock it up pretty nicely. 3 legs, it means that this thing is always self-leveling. That's important because we don't always just have it on concrete. A lot of the time it'll go outside and we'll cook out there. You don't want to smoke up your shed. The wood that we use is one of the local eucalypts called Jarrah. If you're Australian and you didn't know, Jarrah wood is really good for smoking. It's actually pretty good flavour, and you can use it for white and dark meat, so that's pretty good. I did use normal hinges for this lid. did a really crappy job of welding here because I didn't really get this as clean as I could have of galvanizing. So that was pretty rough. Pop some hinges on here and they work pretty well. Like I said, it doesn't get too hot, so none of those warp that much. The hardest thing really of making this was getting that fish mouth to line up on both of those, but I worked it out eventually. So this chimney, again, just a little bit of water pipe that I found. Again, using a bolt and a nut for my hinge. There's a little damper that you can control the flow of smoke and air, and therefore the intensity of the fire in this fire pit. We really like this thing. We don't use it all the time, but we use it fairly frequently. Whenever we slaughter a pig and we need to make bacon, then we fire this thing up. We don't generally use it as a barbecue for cooking meats and stuff, a lot. In fact, we prefer to use the fire pit that I'm about to go and show you. It's a lot easier and nicer to cook over for us. But this thing just is always on standby for when we need to make the enormous quantities of bacon that we frequently do, and of course our Christmas hams and things like that. It's a nice thing. It looks really quirky, but it works really well. Well, if there's two farm mods that I found consistently useful, it's been this chicken tractor and of course my weatherproof chicken feeder bucket. So this thing's just a common and garden ex-builder's bucket that was in the bin. Salvaged that, and it's just a few elbows of PVC popped in there. The reason that's so great is no matter how much it rains a lot here, the grain always stays dry, and there's enough ports in there for our chickens to just self-help whenever they like. So of course they have access to the grass, but they do need grain or sometimes layer pellets for extra minerals to keep their laying up. So these are a great thing. This actually hooks onto this chicken tractor when it's time to move it. So this old thing was just like a table that I found laying around on the farm, and I didn't really have to do much to it to modify it. Actually, I just welded a few little lugs on the front that I cut straight off the bicycle that I got these wheels because it's not a thing that I'm moving at high speed or anything like that. I didn't have to worry about a turning moment, lots of torque on those wheels. So very slapdash approach. So yeah, this is just an old table frame, and of course I used a pallet to make the frame for the roof. Clapped together this old box. I guess there might be a chicken in here. Yeah, of course there is. So we'll leave her to finish laying. Really easy to collect the eggs, and everything's quite well self-contained. This doesn't have any predator protection built in, so I always have it in an electrified net. That keeps the chickens in their place as well, otherwise they'll be up in the compost or doing their best to get into our vegetable garden. So I find these nets really good, but you do have to have them on mown grass. Having them out in the paddock is fine in the times when there's no grass growth, but as soon as the grass starts to grow, they start shorting out and taking power away from the rest of your electric system. So they're a problem in that regard. If your grass isn't nicely kept by cows, sheep or a lawnmower, they're quite ineffective actually. So, watering system couldn't really be easier. I've just got these little self-waterers that operate just on a float, like a lot of animal waterers, but they're just chicken size, connected by garden fittings actually to this drum. Recently I damaged this fitting, so it's actually got a slow leak, which isn't ideal, but I'll wait till I just find another one and we'll sort that out. Why use garden fittings? Well, that enables me to very easily fill up this water drum when it comes time. I don't have to try and hold it up to the tap and try and get it all in the hole or use a funnel or anything like that. I can just hook the hose directly up to the outlet, turn the tap on, and it fills from the bottom up, which is very nice. You don't necessarily need one of these little isolation handles. They're actually pretty expensive. This is 316 stainless marine grade, but of course I'll salvage that when needs must. If you've got water leaking out of here, as soon as you put it up to the carry handle, of course it turns off because it's higher than the water level. So this is pretty unnecessary, but I popped it in because why not? It was just going to waste anyway. I can use it just to clean out those feeders, stick my finger in there, get the algae out, and then flush them out. So that's all pretty straightforward. It's got these handles which are just, honestly, they're just bits of pipe stuck straight up the table. They give me good leverage for when I'm wheeling this thing around, but then they can be slid away. If you don't want the chickens perching on them and leaping, or for any reason, maybe you're a little bit close to the electric mesh and you need to just nip those handles in or whatever, they can be just left out as well. So the reason I like this tractor as well is it allows you to constantly move it. So we come out, get the eggs every day, I inspect the water, check the feed, and move this. So the chickens are never perching over an accumulation of manure, they're never breathing ammonia or anything like that. It's just a very, very simple matter of just moving it along, and then they leave the manure behind. And that also helps me distribute the manure over the grass I'm trying to grow. What I will say is, if you're barefoot, like I am at the moment, because it's spring and I'm enjoying myself, don't move your chicken tractor forward, otherwise you'll walk into the poo. Arrange to walk it backwards. It's probably a trap for new players, but there you go. That's our chicken tractor, made out of entirely recycled stuff that was just making the place look cluttered. And it's really held up. The wood was all just pallets. The sheet iron was laying around. I know not many people have sheet iron just laying around, but you know, making a roof for these things is no big deal. There's good airflow, the chickens don't get too hot in here. It's a very self-contained little thing. They come here for water, they come here for laying eggs, and they come here for food. So it works out well. So this is our fire pit, if you like. Pretty scungy looking old thing. I haven't bothered painting it just because we heat this thing up to quite a high temperature. I guess there's nothing groundbreaking about cutting a 44 in half and sticking it in a frame. This frame was an old desk that I found at the rubbish tip, and I reinforced the bottom with a bit of steel for this drum to fit on. I really like having my fire up like that, because it means when you're sitting there you can actually get your feet under there nice and warm, and it also stops your grass from burning up. You can sit here quite nicely. It's a nice little bit of bush TV, as you can see here. So like I said, nothing too groundbreaking about this, but having a couple of poles in the corner allows us to put some attachments on and makes this a bit more versatile like this. This little fire pit that we whipped up for Pascal, it was all just recycled ingredients. None of it was paid for, so that's really great. These swing grills themselves, they can swing fairly easy, but if you do want to keep it in position, there you go. You just spin one of these and it's all fine. There is pins here that's selected at height, and there's several different holes there that you can choose it. This bottom swing grill is not on a pin, it's just resting straight there on the base, and again that's got a little brake on it as well. I did put a chain on the pin just because if you lose it, it's a real hassle. So we have welded a little bit of chain on there. Each one of these has got a fairly solid gusset just here, a brace on it, so we can load these up with a fair bit of weight. These rings actually used to hold barrels together, and I found them lying around the property. I held on to them, I didn't know what to do with them until Pascal wanted a fire pit, so we were able to make it into these nice swing grills, so that's really good. On this side, we've just got this, so that's a swinging davit. You can swing it over the fire or off, camp ovens and stuff like that. Pascal's just hung an enormous bit of dinosaur on there, and we're going to cook that up. And of course, there's a little bit of chain here, and you can adjust the height, so we'll just pop that back, just like that. We had one of these gone to waste, so I've just put a bit of metal, and that just helps Pascal scrape the coals around, because she's a bit of a precision chef, you know, she's not just happy with any old fire. So we've got that. So this is just a little bit of weld mesh that I found laying around as well. That goes, sorry, I'm going the wrong way then. That just goes on there. So it fits into those so it doesn't fall off, and it's braced of course by this brace going through the middle. So fry pans, pots and pans, stuff like that. You want to whip up a quick breakfast, it's all good. I better lift that off before it gets too hot. That's our little fire pit. It's a weird combination of underbuilt and overbuilt. And it looks like it was built by someone on a farm, so it's achieved its goal. There is also a barbecue plate that goes on there, but we're not using it, so it's not on there. You just have to believe me. We use different variations of these IBCs, International Bulk Carriers, these cubes. We use them a lot on the farm, which is no surprise because a lot of properties do. This one is just being used as a stillage, a means of, you know, carrying things around. At the moment it's empty. I was using this just I carted some some rainwater off our shed. I captured it in this and I used it to build the compost heap. They're really, really nice. They've got a drain there, and of course they come built in, ready to go, so any tractor with pallet forks can lift them around. These ones I like to cut them in half and then just put a nice smooth barrier around the edges. It just, where you've cut the metal off, you know, that can be dangerous to little hands, can be dangerous to big hands like mine as well. So just a little bit of waste irrigation pipe goes a long way to making these things a lot nicer to deal with. We've also used this, it's very, very nice to raise chicks in actually, because it's quite rat proof once you put a mesh lid on them, which is very, very easy to make. These are very uniform size and they're all the same, so once you make one lid they can go on sort of any of them. Very, very easy to clean if you're raising chicks in them. We found them very, very, very useful. Kept our cat and our dog away from them when we raised our 50 meat birds, so that was really good. Another very common use for IBCs on the property is for young animals. I like to make these shelters. Again, they're easy to move with a tractor. Again, they're a good excuse to get rid of some of your sheet iron. All they need to have is some nice bedding popped in there. They've got drains on them again, but this keeps animals warm. It gets them up off the ground. You know, good insulation in there once you put some straw. When my pigs were very young, they loved going in here. At the moment, it looks like they've gone in there again for a little bit of nostalgia, but it's quite warm at the moment, so they wouldn't go in. So as far as animal shelters, these things go really, really well. So a very nice modification that you can make for out of an IBC is a grain store for pig, chicken food, whatever you like. Fertiliser, if you were going to use bulk fertiliser, we don't. And everything that's on an IBC has the materials for you to make this. So that's really, really great. This metal plate, when you first get these things, they have a metal plate there that they can attach all the warning labels and things like that to. So that gives you the materials for this. When you cut these frames out, you can use those as the channels for that sliding door there. I didn't. So I actually did have a bit of channel laying around. I was wondering what to do with it. So I have actually popped it in here. The bit that you cut out for the metal door, you can, when you're making your little sliding door here, you're going to need something rigid there rather than the plastic, something rigid, so you can use it for that, and you know, the leftover cutouts. But you also, the little bit that you cut out to make the door, if you put that on the front, it slides really nicely in the channel, and it also thickens it up so there's not too much play in there. But you know, like, I've found it very, very effective. This thing's a little bit too small to catch it, but you get the general idea. Really effective, easy to use. The one thing is it's sitting flat at the moment, so I do have to periodically get up there and just move the grain forward towards the trapdoor, but once I do, it spills out quite nicely. If you were willing to have that up on an angle and secure it so it's safe, then of course it would free flow really easily. So if you've got a tractor with a reasonable set of forks, you can actually take this on a trailer to a feed store with the top opened up, and they'll auger feed in for you. I don't have that luxury. I go and get my feed out of bags. So at the moment, I've got some bags waiting to fill this up, but I still have to get through this. So my pigs are working on it, but whenever I find a really good deal on feed, I have to jump at it. So I've got a little bit laying around. Nice and rat proof, nice and goat proof. So what I did have to do is make a little modification to the door of this because I put this nice finger grab there to make it easy to operate. The goats found it very easy to operate too. They came, stuck their nose up, lifted it up, and of course the friction of the grain just left it up, and I came to a huge pile of feed on the ground, which is just such a typical goat thing to do. It's not hard to resolve that though. If you want animals not to be able to open it, you can just drill holes in the side there, get some of these R clips, yeah, shaped a little bit like an R, and they can go in, of course, and because we have opposable thumbs, we can get into it, but that'll pretty much stuff your goats. Rivets are fine to put on this. You can put a backer in there if you like. I didn't feel the need to. And I do have quite large washers on the back of these, mud flat washers that go with these little quarter inch rivets that I use there. really handy, really quick, can recommend. I love this thing. It just makes things so much easier for me. So IBC mods, the sky's the limit really. Whatever you can imagine you can make out of those things. So this might be stretching the definition of a junk mod. This carryall that I built for the tractor, it's been enormously useful. Really, really fantastic. There's actually an episode that we made of the build, and in the description of that you can find the free plans. It won't cost you a cent. You can go ahead and make one of these if you so desire. I will say that when I did make it, the lower pin where it goes into the carryall itself wasn't really a great design, and I did do this modification to it here to make it a little bit stronger. But one of the modifications that I made to this thing when I actually did build it was that I used some of the scrap steel to make these gussets, a tongue, and put an automotive tow ball on it. Really, really, really can recommend it. If you've got a carryall or you're going to build one and it doesn't have a tow ball on it, really consider it. So obviously, because this thing's on the tractor's 3-point linkage, it can raise and lower. So it's very, very straightforward to back up to a trailer from your seat, hit the lever, it raises up the tow ball, catches the trailer hitch, and you're away. You do have to come down to secure the trailer hitch and get rid of the jockey wheel. But you know, if you're only moving that trailer a couple of meters, you can pretty much just back up, bam, move it, drop it again, and just keep going. We have absolutely loaded this thing up, as you do with just about anything on a farm, and it hasn't failed me yet. It's just been such a good addition to this already amazingly handy thing. Carryalls, they're just fantastic. Anytime I want to go and do anything with this tractor, I can just have all the tools on me that I need. I can pack a little thermos of tea if I want, or a lunch if it's going to be a long stint out there, put it all in this box. It really, really has just boosted the utility of the tractor, and putting a tow ball on the back of it has really, really boosted the utility of the carryall itself. Alright, here's a junk mod that didn't really take too much modification. This is a trampoline that was free to a good home. You just come and remove it, which I did. My modification was just to put an old crappy tarp on top of it to make it waterproof. So this is a really good movable shelter, very light, very easy for me to move by myself. And when there's no tree belt, I can offer this to my pigs and they can get out of the sun, or in this case they can get out of the rain. Getting out of the rain is important for a pig. They don't mind being wet, but it is nice for them to be able to dry their feet out every now and then. So they do actually appreciate when it's pouring rain. They'll get under here, make a nice dry bed, and they'll all go into a nice pig pile. So if you ever see a trampoline going for free, if you can remove it and you're a livestock owner and you care about their comfort, then one of these is a really good thing.
Thanks for watching this week, folks, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you missed the previous announcement, we are currently running a free Range Homestead t-shirt campaign for the month of November. To grab yours today, I've put a link in the screen now and in the description of the video.